For decades, they rode across America's most dangerous frontiers. They fought in brutal battles, survived scorching deserts, protected settlers, and built the roads that connected a growing nation. Yet when history celebrated the conquest of the American West, their names were almost erased. They were black men, many born into slavery, who wore the uniform of a country that still denied them equal rights. Some called them heroes. Others saw them as symbols of a painful chapter in America's expansion. So who were the Buffalo Soldiers? Why did Native American warriors give them a name that would echo through history? And how did these forgotten cavalrymen become some of the most decorated soldiers in the United States Army, only to have their story nearly disappear from history books? This is not just the story of soldiers. It is a story of freedom earned but never fully granted, of loyalty tested by discrimination, of impossible choices, and of men determined to prove their worth in a nation that questioned their humanity. This is the untold story of the Buffalo Soldiers. The story begins in the aftermath of one of the bloodiest conflicts in American history. It was 1865. The Civil War had finally come to an end. After 4 years of devastating fighting, the Union had emerged victorious. Slavery had been abolished, and nearly 4 million African Americans were finally free. For many, freedom was supposed to mark the beginning of a new life. Instead, it became the beginning of a new struggle. Across the South, former Confederate states introduced laws that restricted the rights of Black Americans. Violence became commonplace. Jobs were scarce, education was limited, and opportunities were almost non-existent. For countless newly freed men, survival itself became a daily battle. Then, in 1866, the United States Congress made a decision that would change history. The Army authorized the creation of 4 permanent African American regiments, the 9th and 10th Cavalry, along with the 24th and 25th Infantry. For the first time in American history, Black soldiers would serve in the regular peacetime army. Thousands volunteered. Some hoped to escape poverty. Others sought adventure beyond the plantations they had known all their lives. Many simply wanted to prove that they deserved the same respect and citizenship as any other American. But wearing the uniform did not erase prejudice. The men trained under white officers who often doubted their abilities. They received worn-out equipment, were assigned to the harshest posts, and endured discrimination both inside and outside the military. Even in uniform, they were refused service at restaurants, insulted in towns, and treated as second-class citizens. Yet they refused to give up. Instead of allowing hatred to define them, they answered it with discipline. Every drill, every march, every battle became an opportunity to prove their courage. None of them could have imagined that their greatest test was still ahead. Far beyond the Mississippi River lay an untamed frontier stretching for thousands of miles. A land of endless plains, towering mountains, scorching deserts, and fierce resistance. It was here, on the edge of a rapidly expanding nation, that these soldiers would earn a name history would never forget. The Buffalo Soldiers. The American West was unlike anything these soldiers had ever known. It was a land of breathtaking beauty and unimaginable danger. Towering mountain ranges stretched into the clouds. Endless grasslands disappeared beyond the horizon. Vast deserts scorched everything beneath the relentless sun, while freezing winters swept across the plains with equal brutality. There were few towns, fewer roads, and in many places, the only signs of civilization were isolated military forts scattered hundreds of miles apart. This was where the Buffalo Soldiers were sent. Their mission was simple on paper, but incredibly dangerous in reality. Protect settlers traveling west. Escort wagon trains carrying supplies. Guard stagecoaches delivering mail. Build roads through unforgiving terrain. repair telegraph lines that connected distant communities, and maintain order across a frontier larger than many countries. It was exhausting work. A single patrol could last weeks. The soldiers often rode hundreds of miles with little food, limited water, and no guarantee they would return safely. Dust storms blinded them. Rivers flooded without warning. Disease spread through isolated camps, and every journey carried the constant risk of attack. Yet wherever they were stationed, the Buffalo Soldiers earned a reputation for discipline unlike any other unit in the army. They rarely abandoned their posts. Their uniforms were meticulously maintained despite the harsh conditions. Their horses were among the best cared for in the cavalry. Their commanders, even those who initially doubted them, began acknowledging their professionalism and courage. But the frontier was not empty. Long before American settlers arrived, these lands had been home to Native American nations for centuries. The Apache, the Cheyenne, the Comanche, the Kiowa, the Sioux, and many others. As more settlers pushed westward, conflict became inevitable. The United States government sought to expand its territory, while Native communities fought to protect the lands that had belonged to their ancestors for generations. Caught between these two worlds were the Buffalo Soldiers. Many had only recently escaped slavery themselves. They understood what it meant to have freedom taken away. Yet they now wore the uniform of a government determined to claim indigenous lands. It was one of history's deepest ironies. Black soldiers, still facing discrimination and segregation, were ordered to enforce policies that brought hardship to another oppressed people. For the men themselves, the choices were rarely simple. Most were not fighting out of hatred. They were following military orders, earning a living, and trying to build a future in a nation that offered them few alternatives. History would later debate their role for generations. But one thing was undeniable. On the battlefield, their courage earned the respect of both allies and enemies. And somewhere on those wind-swept plains, Native American warriors gave them a name that would outlive every battle they fought. A name inspired by strength, endurance, and fearless determination. They called them Buffalo Soldiers.